using Zoom. And the meeting is being recorded. The session is being recorded both for audio and visual content and is under the control of a Zoom host. In this case, Ms. St. Ange. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave their video on or off. However, they will be asked to turn on their video when speaking. If video is not available to you, you will not be precluded from speaking at the appropriate time and may listen to the meeting. During this meeting, everyone is asked to state their name each and every time they speak. Please use the raise your hand feature to let me and the host of this meeting know that you have raised your hand to speak. Members of the public may only speak during the portion of the agenda established for citizens' comments on agenda item. And there are two opportunities in the beginning, one in the beginning and one in the end. Members of the public may only also for individuals representing applicants, permittees, and violators listed in the agenda and their representatives. If you are speaking at this meeting and have a document to submit to the commission, which was not distributed in advance of the meeting with the rest of the materials, please indicate that you wish to submit it. Hold it up to the camera so the commission members and all members of the public can see it. And then email a PDF copy to Marla at wetlands@thompsonct.org, and we'll include it in the permanent record. If a member of the public tries to communicate outside of the citizens' comments on the agenda items portion of the meeting, or if any person creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected by the host from the meeting upon my request. So now it's time to call the roll. So commissioners, Commissioner Chapin?
Present.
Commissioner Morano?
Present.
Commissioner Obert? No appointment. Commissioner Obert is currently absent, and George O'Neill, Commissioner Chair, present. There are no alternates to appoint. On to the next item. Action on minutes of previous meeting, minutes of February 14th, 2022. Commissioners, do you have any modifications, change, corrections of the previous minutes that were distributed in advance of this meeting?
I do not.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, the minutes will stand as read. And here's a summary of those. They're available online, of course. So we also require, in this case, I'm asking for a vote, and I need someone to make a motion to amend the agenda to include minutes for Saturday special meeting site walk. Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Chapin, I'll make that motion to amend the agenda to include the minutes from the Saturday special meeting site walk.
Okay, motion's made and seconded by
Commissioner Morano.
Commissioner Morano. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Commissioner, I note for the record that Commissioner Obert has joined the meeting at the time of 7:03. And the minutes stand as for the site walk have been accepted and voted on as in favor. So the minutes are included. And here's the minutes for the meeting. I believe these were already circulated, Marla?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, they were.
I did send it to each of the commissioners.
All right, and the map of this, for those that were present, we had I thought a very insightful talk. Moving on to the next item, we have citizens'
Are
comments.
those acceptable, George?
Yes,
Are those, okay.
minutes are accepted. Next item of business is citizens' comments on agenda items. So for those citizens present, if you would like to comment on an item that is listed, this is an opportunity. Please confine your comments to the item on the agenda that is listed. We'll give everyone a chance. We don't have an awful lot of people, so if you could just unmute yourself and speak, that'd be great. If not, then we'll move on.
This is Bernie Mayo. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me.
Yes, Mr. Mayo, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just going to wait till my item on the agenda comes up then.
Will do. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item. We have old applications, WAA 22029er, Gary Rawson, Zero Lodge Road, Assessors Map 141, Block 17, Lot 184R. Construct a new single-family home in a 100-foot upland review area for aquatic reservoir, stamped received on 11/16/22, awaiting NDDH approval. Marla, do we have any updates on this particular application?
No, we're still waiting for NDDH's approval.
Okay, and moving on to the next related application, which is WAA 22030 Gary Rawson, Zero Lodge Road, Point Assessors Map 141, Block 17, Lot 184I. Construct a new single-family home in a 100-foot upland review area for aquatic reservoir. Stamped received 11/16/22. NDDH approval received on 3/6/23. Status update. Where do we stand?
So I am in the process of drafting the approval and mailing the appropriate documents. I checked with the building office to make sure there wasn't any problem with it. Given that there is no real driveway, and I asked the question about whether or not they could park cars on the septic system. And I was told by Donna Hall in the building office that yes, they prefer you didn't, but you can park your car on top of your septic system. So I will be issuing that approval within the next week.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for our inland wetlands agent regarding this matter?
No.
Okay, hearing none, and we'll move on. WAA, the new applications, WAA 23001, Hene Yosef 274 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 87, Block 95, Lot 39. Construct a 13 by 50 foot concrete pad for a refrigeration freezer unit. Stamped received on 1/19/23, revised 2/1/2023, to include construction of 2 second floor decks, a 50 by 13 over a proposed concrete slab, and a 18 by 36 foot along entire width of the south side of the building. Under review, do we have a status update?
Yeah, Scribner error. This is an old application, not a new application. Copied from the last
Okay.
last Zoom
I thought I
document.
jumped into my new section there.
Yeah, no, it's 3A, EA3 is old applications.
Right.
And it'll be the same thing for the next application as an old application. But Hene Yosef has changed his plans again. And the building office is looking for architectural drawings, because what he's proposing now is to have a deck in the back to connect with the deck on the south side of the property without a connection to the north side. And the concern is because this would be used by the public as a sitting area, they have to have the drawings stamped by an engineer.
Mhm.
And so until they get the engineering plans, it's because it seems to be a moving target. I'm waiting until the signed architectural drawings are submitted to the building office and submitted to the wetlands office. And
Right.
at that point in time, it's most likely I will issue an approval, but not until then.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for our inland wetlands agent? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next old application. IWA 23002, Jason LaValle, Zero Azard Road, Assessors Map 67, Block 53, lots 1H and 1G. Construct multifamily dwellings in 5 phases within upland review area with drainage, discharging, 2 wetlands, water courses. Stamped received on 2/7/2023, statutory receipt date of 2/14/2023. So where do we stand on this, Marlon? Do we have a representative to speak on the subject?
Yes, I see that Jason LaValle is in the Zoom meeting as well as Janet. But before we talk to them, I'd like to update you on the documentation that I've received from the applicant. Janet on the 7th of March sent me an email that I had asked for an evaluation of the vernal pool, and I needed someone who was capable, had the qualifications. She offered up the name of Margaret Washburn, who is a soil scientist, and I asked her for Margaret Washburn's qualifications. So on page 15 of the Zoom documents, you will see my at request for the qualifications, and then Janet submitted to me the information of her resume, and that is, I believe, attached. I guess I didn't. Yeah, it's attached along with it. And then the next thing is on the 9th Janet forwarded a set of updated plans that were color coded, and those are the plans that are in this meeting tonight. And I'll let the applicant or Janet explain the changes between the ones that you'd seen before and the ones that are coming in the future. And then subsequent to our site walk, I had a number of questions. So after the site plans, there is a list of questions that I feel should be answered before the commission renders any decision. And with this, I'll send it over to Janet to review what the changes are and the direction that the applicant is taking.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Ms. Blanchette, do you like to be recognized?
Sure. This is Janet Blanchette from J&D Civil Engineers. You can hear me okay there?
Excellent, thank
Okay.
you.
So basically the changes to the plan primarily do consist of colorizing it for clarity to make everybody be able to see blue for the wetlands, green for the conservation area. The only change that was like a substantial or an engineering change was that the fire marshal requested a underground cistern that's going to be up near the road network, and it's not within the upland review area for the Wetlands Commission. If you could perhaps advance to the next plan sheet. Yeah, this is a good overview sheet. And you can see the colorization does help. Everything that's in green is a conservation area or a conservation easement. And of these two lots where the project is proposed, basically the applicant offered up 43% of the land to be in a conservation area. And it includes probably about 60%. Yep, that's it. And so some of that conservation area is in the lots above this project, but that's just additional area. So the wetlands that you can see in blue here, and as people could see at the site visit, were man-made wetlands from gravel excavation. The upland review area, particularly like to the right of the blue area, which is the south side, has been extensively disturbed in the past. So the project does propose development within that upland review area, mostly to the south of the wetlands, whereas to the north.
Excuse me, Janet, if you could go to page 21, that shows the wetlands in the upland review area on the colorized drawing. Sorry, Janet.
No problem. This is it's more of a blow up sheet, so you can see that some development is proposed within the upland review area, but the majority of the project is of course outside the 100-foot upland review area. And in 2004, when those wetlands were delineated for the previous project, Margaret Washburn was the soil scientist who identified those wetlands, and it was in April 6th of 2004 that she did note that both the ponds were functioning as vernal pools at that time. So we did try to design the project in such a manner that runoff from the stormwater management system will not run directly into the wetland or the potential vernal pools. It's all directed around that area. I know that we're actually coming right up onto the ideal time of year to make another check of the wetlands and see if they are functioning as vernal pools. And I believe that that's one of Marla's questions and suggestions, that the meeting be tabled till next month when it's later in the season. And we understand that, and that's fine. We have Margaret pretty much on deck, ready to go when the season hits, to go revisit the site and see whether they're functioning as vernal pools like they were in 2004. And so I think I don't have Marla's questions directly in front of me now, but one of them was the question that if it's going to go past April 20th, would the applicant grant a 65-day extension? And the answer to that is yes. But I do believe your next meeting is the 11th, so we will have time at that meeting, depending on if the season is appropriate, to visit the site and check for the vernal pool species. But, you know, we can discuss that before the 11th, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other,
I would like to
Questions or comments?
comment on that.
yes, Marla,
So
please.
typically, the breeding season starts usually the first warm rain in April, which can occur at any time in April. So the fact that the wetlands meeting is in the beginning of April and the end of the 65 days that the commission has to either render a decision or hold a public hearing has to be done by the 20th of April. And so waiting until the next wetlands meeting is insufficient time to set up a public hearing if the information regarding the vernal pool is not there or is inadequate. And I would never consider the commission to render a decision without having all the information in place. So I want the commission to be able to reserve its right to hold a public hearing. And in that case, I am requesting that the applicant grant in writing to the commission a 65, it doesn't have to be total 65 days. It could be a 30-day extension for the commission to decide whether it wants to hold a public hearing or not. That would take it to past the middle of April, when the evaluation for breeding might start. My guess is that Margaret's probably not going to have an answer until the end of April, because depending on what the weather does, we'll make a determination as to whether or not you see breeding or not see breeding. And because vernal pools don't have actual absolute dates that the breeding starts, I was asking if, George, if you go to page, I believe it was 29. Hold on, come on, stop. I believe it was 27. I'm gonna go on and find it myself. I had a bunch
What are we
of
looking for?
questions.
A list of questions? Okay, it's after 29.
Looking for questions on
Here they are.
page
It's,
29.
It's 29.
So I had not had a chance to share this with Janet. It was after we did our site walk on Saturday that a lot of things came to mind. So this is some of the information that I think the commission has to have before it renders a final decision. First question is the pooled area located in the delineated wetlands a vernal pool inhabited or utilized by species such as fairy shrimp, breeding wood frogs, breeding salamanders, etc.? And that's where Margaret Washburn comes in. Jason has offered the services of Margaret Washburn to evaluate and report on the function of the wetlands as a vernal pool. And I would like to know what the protocols are that she's going to use to evaluate the functional viabilities of those wetlands as a vernal pool, i.e., when is her plan for sampling? How often is she going to sample? Is she going to go back and sample it if she sees nothing the first time? I think we need to know what her protocols are to know that they're acceptable. The next issue that I have is if it is a viable vernal pool, and this is all going to depend on what Margaret says, what impact the proposed construction will have on the functional viability of the vernal pool. She should be able to provide some kind of evaluation for that. If she can't, then it would have to be a herpetologist that does that. That's if it's a viable vernal pool. And also, if it's a viable vernal pool, the question is what impact can the operation of proposed well number 2 have on the vernal pool's water table as a result of groundwater drawdown caused by the operation of the well? And if you go to page 25 of the Zoom documents, George.
I'm here. Yeah, you're there now.
You can see the location of, it's right next to the phase 4, phase 2 line, well number 2. Now, typically when you have a well and you start pulling water off that well, you will get a cone of influence around that well as the water table drops right close to the well, that depending on the demand on the well and the yield that's available to the well. So since this watercourse system that may be a vernal pool, if it is a vernal pool, what effect would that well, the use of that well, have upon the water supply in that wetland? And would it potentially dry it up by causing it to be removed so much? Now, there is a possibility that there are alternative locations for that well, but that would only be needed if it was a vernal pool. And right now, we don't know if it's a vernal pool, so it's kind of like taking a wait and see on whether or not you need to evaluate that well or have an alternative location for that well. Then the next issue that I had, if I go back to the questions on page 29, given the observed discharges leaving the wetlands on January 22nd, when Janet and I were out there, and on March 11th during the Saturday site walk, can the proposed stormwater management system cause an intensification of discharge such that the impacts will have an impact to driving conditions on Route 12? We saw on Saturday that there was water leaving the wetland system. We didn't have a huge amount of rain, but we'd had rain before, so the water table's really high. We could see water draining out of the system, but we never saw it draining into the street. So it somehow got recharged back into the ground before it got to the street. That was not the situation on January 22nd. On January 22nd, we'd had a couple inches of rain the night before, and it was draining out of the system, draining like a little waterfall, and running right out into the road after it spread out quite a distance. And we actually saw one place where it was bubbling out of the ground near the pavement area. So that's another question that I have that I think needs to be looked at. So then will the commission need the services of an independent professional engineer to review the hydraulic design and function of the stormwater management system? That's up to you to decide whether or not you feel you need to have that. As you know, the town does not have a hired professional engineer or an engineer under the town's employ. But there are engineering firms such as Tybon, who does a lot of work for the town, designing up, like they designed up the trackway that's under later on in this meeting. And that's a possibility that somebody else could look at it if you felt that that was necessary. Given the commission is required by statute to hold a public hearing or render a decision on this application by April 20th, I need to know if the applicant is willing to grant an extension of time for the commission to decide if a public hearing is necessary, thereby ensuring that there's sufficient time to collect and submit to the commission an evaluation and report on the function of wetlands as the viability of the vernal pool and any other information it deems necessary to make an informed decision. So I think that the applicant at this juncture, the commission needs to have an assurance from the applicant that is at least willing to grant a 30-day extension so that the commission can decide at the next meeting if they have sufficient information to render decision, or do they feel they need to go to a public hearing. Alternatively, the applicant could grant a 65-day, which is the total maximum that he can grant, so that the commission can have all that time to get that information that was raised as an issue of whether or not this is a vernal pool and what the hydraulics are. And that would have to be in writing. And so Jason is on, I believe, on the Zoom meeting, and he might be able to respond. Well, he was on the Zoom meeting.
I see Mr. Lavalley's, I see a Jason listed. Is that, I see
Yes.
introduce you, please state name and address.
Yes, hi, Jason LaValle, 83 Rich Road, North Grosvenor Vale.
Okay,
Yes,
Chair, go ahead, Mr.
I-
Lavalley.
Be fine to grant an extension of 65 days. So I guess, I don't know, if you need to have it put in, Janet could probably draft up a letter, I guess, and when I get back, I could sign it.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. That's clear.
Yeah, he's in Florida. He'll be back at the end of March. Would that be fine, Marla?
Yeah. Yep. So
Okay.
the last thing I wanted to point out to the commission that I had in a preliminary meetings with Janet, I had asked about the phasing. And I wanted to point out to the commission that Janet has done what I asked her to do. I said, given the fact that phases you can stop at phase 1 and not do any other phases after that, what do you have as proposed grades? So for example, phase one doesn't require any approval by the Inland Wetlands Commission because as far as I recall, there is no work in the upland review area. Let me just double check. Janet, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the stormwater management system is in the upland review area at that location.
That's correct.
So phase one could be built without any approval from the Wetlands Commission. But because the application before the Planning and Zoning Commission includes all phases, the commission has to consider all the phases. So I had asked Janet to provide on the plans, and if you go to page 23 of the Zoom documents,
We're there.
which shows, you'll notice that there's actually 3 sets of contours. There is a dotted dashed contour, that's the existing contours. Then there's a hard, a dark, solid line. That's the proposed with all the phases being built at the same time. And then there's a lighter gray, which blends into the proposed final contours. And those are would be the contours that would be used if no further phase was done. So if phase one was the only thing that was done, you would see there next to the phase two, phase one line, there would be a little bit of grading work in phase two for the grading. So if you look at elevation 350, there's an elevation 350 that goes east and west, and that would be the temporary grade should no other phase be built. So I wanted to point that out to the commission as they looked at the plans, because each of the phases could be built in sequence without the subsequent phase being built. What's interesting on this application is that he proposes 3 wells, and one well number 1, is located in phase 1. And he would not need to have any kind of community well system for that because he doesn't have enough units associated drawing off that well. But once he goes from phase 1 to phase 2, then he goes into a different kind of system for his water supply, and the State Department of Health, I'm informed, would regulate that. And so he has a total of 3 wells. So phase 1 is something that he could build without having anything through the Wetlands Commission technically. But to move forward with the other phases, he has to go through, because he submitted it to Planning and Zoning, the commission has to consider those. So one of the options is that's available to the commission if there's insufficient information on the application to render decision regarding that wetland system. The commission could deny the application, but he could still potentially build phase 1 if he applies through Planning and Zoning. But we're not there yet until we know that the wetland system is or is not a vernal pool. That becomes important. And then I have just one last question for Janet. And if you look at the wetland system, the wetlands that were delineated, there is a pool, there's an elevation, looks like not an elevation, but there's a marking indicating the open water area. And my question is what is the date that open water area in the wetlands was surveyed? Because as you know, vernal pools, their pooling area changes over time. So it would become important to know when that line was established, identifying the pooled area.
I'll
the
have to
vernal pool.
look in when the flight of the aerial was. It might have been something like 2008 or somewhere under, but I could get that information for you. And we could, if it's really, one thing we could do is send our survey crew out at the time, like now in April, and get the exact extent at this time of year. That's the important time of year for potential vernal pool species. We could literally do the water line of April 2023 if that's valuable information.
Only if it comes up as a vernal pool, but if you have the month and the day of when that aerial photography was done, we can look back at the rainfall data to find out, whether or not there had been a rainfall immediately preceding it that would have affected the elevation or the size of that pooled area. Because if it was done in the fall, after the leaves fall off in the fall, then it becomes more problematic because the pool would be much smaller at that point in time than it would be now. So I would leave that up to you and
Okay, thank you, Marla. And thank you, Janet. Commissioners, do we have any questions for J&D or, yes, Commissioner Obert, Chair recognizes Commissioner Obert.
Thank you. Looking at these drawings, I see something that I did not understand or did not notice when we were out there on Saturday. And that is that the 4 units that are actually closest to the wetlands, and they're in part of, they're closest to well number 2, and they're in phase 2. And they are not separated from the wetlands by a retention ditch as, okay, look, whoa, those are the ones. You're just going past them.
Right,
Those 4 don't have a retention ditch between the buildings and the wetlands. It's closest to the wetlands. And I wondered how we missed that. When we were out there looking at it, I understood that retention ditch was going to be between all of the buildings. Now, George, you're missing it a little bit. Right
here?
there, whoa, right there. Whoa, there's well number 2.
right,
Then the 4 buildings that are just below you're right there where your marker is.
Right.
Those 4 have no retention ditch between them and the wetlands, as the rest of
George,
the
go to
project.
go to page 23, George. You'll
Okay,
see it on
a
page
moment.
23.
That's the one I'm looking at, is page 23.
Okay,
It just says
Yes.
walkouts and then there's bang right over the edge.
Yep.
With
Right
the
here.
steep, that steep bank. I mean, it's like, that was that exact those 4 units were what caught my attention on the first drawing. And when we were
Yes.
out there looking at it, I was thinking, okay, well, there's going to be a retention ditch here that will prevent erosion and contain it, but there's nothing there for that. In
You're-
fact, the drainage from that retention swale runs right underneath that area.
good point, Commissioner Obert. I think Ms. Blanchett has a comment.
Well, he's correct. Charlie's is correct. That because of the slope, I couldn't fit in an infiltration swale there. So I have proposed not only Tove slope erosion protection, but also that area. There's a note within the wetlands on the far left-hand side of the sheet that says that area will be stabilized with permanent erosion control blanket. That's the stuff that stays forever to stabilize the bank. And that is the only building that would have any kind of sheet runoff that flows towards the wetlands. Out of all the buildings, it's just that one. One comment that Marla made to me, and I think it's a good idea, is not to have any lawn be behind that building, to do some more kind of like native plantings for slope stabilization, so there wouldn't be runoff from lawns that could have associated nutrients or the
Now,
like.
these units are going to be owned by the occupants, or are they going to be rented?
Initially, he plans on renting them until he has enough done in phases that they will be condominiums. And so if they're condominiums, though, the grounds would still be under common ownership, wouldn't be the individuals aren't responsible for grounds maintenance. So it would be an association, a homeowners association.
But if I were to buy one of those units and move into it and wanted to do any kind of rock garden behind it, it's my unit. What's
No,
that?
that's typically not allowed with homeowners associations. They have very strict rules about landscaping, putting your laundry out, putting up swimming pools, You're typically not allowed to do that in a condo association.
Well, thanks for answering that. And as I understand, we're going to be able to look at this again next month and then decide whether we have to go to a public hearing or whether we have all our answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Obert. Any other commissioners with questions of J&D or Mr. LaValle?
None here.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. One question I did have is there are a total of 3 wells in this planned development? Janet?
Correct. Are you looking for the third?
Oh, I know there. I saw it was there somewhere. I'm not looking at the right page, but I just want to make sure this. And how many? Is that adequate? I guess it's not really a concern of ours. I just want to make sure there were at least 3. I see they're located on one of these charts somewhere. There it was here. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Where's 3? Down below. 3, 2. All right.
You'll see it on page 23.
Yeah,
They are all
23.
shown.
There they are. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3. All right. All right then. Thank you. I have no additional questions, and no doubt we'll have others for the next meeting. All right then. Thank you very much, Ms. Planchette and Mr. LaValle, for your comments, and commissioners as well. So let's move on to the next item. We have no further action required at this point, do we, Marla, or just?
That's correct. Mr.
right.
LaValle has
Give an
verbally
extension.
granted his ascension to a 65-day extension. And next month, we'll find out what information we have from Margaret Washburn.
Right.
And from there, you can decide what you want to do.
Great. All right, then moving on to the next item, which is new applications. Let me get to it. WAA 23003, George Mariner, 0 Brickyard Road, Assessors Map 38, Block 87, Lot 6. Construct driveway and detached garage in 100-foot upland review area for a new single-family home. Stamped received on 2/15/2023, issued 2/15/2023. Legal notice to be published on 2/24/23. Appeal period ends on 3/11/23. It's over.
So, George, if you go to page 44, the Zoom documents contain all the application, but if you go to page 44, the original application that came in for this property was by Fogarty. And Fogarty did not have a detached garage, but the house was there and the driveway was there. And you'll notice on page 44 that the house and the septic system and the well are located outside of the upland review area. What was originally authorized by under Mr. Fogarty's approval was the construction of the driveway to the house. But when Mr. Marrier bought the property, he wanted to have a detached garage and change the location of the driveway a little bit and change the location of the house a little bit. So because he was changing the location, I couldn't do it as a modification of the original approval. So it made no sense to, I believe he actually got the permit approval transferred, but he needed, because he was increasing the scope of the work, needed a new approval. So as soon as he brought it in, I had seen it ahead of time. I granted the approval, and the end of comment period is up, and there's been no appeals. So this is a final action. No actions required by the commission.
Okay. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next item. Let me just flip through it. The it's 203, yeah. So we'd have IWA 23003, Bernard P. Mayo, 73 Laporte Road, Assessors Map 55, Block 65, Lot 7A. Filling of wetlands for construction of new detached garage associated with existing single-family house, stamped received on 3/3/23, to be statutorily received on 3/14/23. And I see we have a wetland agent approval here.
No.
Oh, is that the wrong one?
It's an application. That's
It's
the
an
wrong
application.
one. That's
Okay.
Mr. Marrier's.
Right.
You
Oh, Mayo.
want to
Okay,
go
where are
to,
we? Oh, they out of sequence
you
then.
want to go to
because-
page 49, starts
Yeah,
the
we're out of
application.
sequence here. We're out of
All
that.
right.
Something's out
So
of sequence.
Mr. Mail is here on the Zoom meeting. He has his NDDH approval for it. And if you go to see the site plan, I would ask you to go to page 62 of the Zoom documents.
52 or 62?
62.
62, got it. Okay, we got it.
So this was, if you recall, in past wetlands agent reports, I told you that I had looked at this site and I had asked Mr. Mayo to have the wetlands delineated. He had them delineated and found that they were more expansive than he originally thought on his property. And he had a plan design. This was the original location of the garage that he wanted. And it was developed up by Provost and Rivero. And the question that I had for him, if you go down to page 65, I was asking him the question of why do you have to fill wetlands to build a detached garage when you have a potential alternative location for the garage that would meet your basic needs? It would be about the same distance from the house. It would be associated with the existing pavement, but doesn't cause the filling of wetlands. And I've asked him to come to this meeting tonight to give to you his explanation as to whether or not he's willing to move the location of the garage, or whether he can explain why he has to have the garage at that position, thereby destroying the wetlands that will be filled.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Mr. Mayo, would you to state your name and address and for recognition by the chair.
Hi, this is Bernie Mayo, 73 LaPorte Road, North Riverdale. It was just a preference that I had discussed with the engineer from Provost and Rivero, and like Marla had said, we didn't have that perimeter of I believe it's the wetland soils delineated prior to. And the thought was to try and stay away from any potential interference from bedrock in that side hill, which may still be a concern, but I'd be willing to relocate it. I do have a couple comments about some things I'd like to try and work through with Provost and Rivero that I think would still be in the spirit of staying out of the wetlands with that structure in that area. And I'll go ahead with those as long as everybody's okay with that. I've got it on my screen here on my laptop. So I would say I'd like to keep it in that orientation as the same as the original one, just to facilitate the way sidewalks over to it lay out. And I think the grades work because there is some flat area that's adjacent to the driveway now where we wouldn't have to, rework the slope as shown in the original documents. And I did talk to David today about all this stuff. He's confident that the pitch on the sewer will still work because he had plenty originally. I did reach out to NDDH and they are going to require a reapplication, but it seems like just a formality, with a corrected site plan, so they can just make sure everything's, according to oil and give it a final blessing. The one thing with trying to maintain that orientation to maintain like a, squared off sidewalks over to the structure from the house, what I would say is the best way I can describe it on the Zoom meeting here would be to pin that lower right-hand corner, the southeast corner of the proposed alternate location that Marla drew in, and just rotate it counterclock. Now the other corner maybe, or not maybe, the other corner, and then rotate it, which I think that's the corner that comes closest to the wetlands, the one I'm describing, the southeast corner.
Mhm.
So it would still maintain the distance there. And Marla did indicate this was the
You're gonna move it
scale.
like this? I'm just trying to understand how you move. Is the red box correct? Is this where you're?
Correct.
That's the
That
new,
lower left, that lower right-hand corner,
yes, here.
if we pin that and just rotated it so that it's more or less in the same orientation as what
So you bring
Provost
it
and
down
Rivera,
like
yeah,
this.
correct, there you
So
go.
you'd have it aligned like this. You bring this angle
Correct.
down like that. Okay.
It lets me square off the sidewalk coming into it, and I'm perfectly fine with it where it is. Because the other thing that's mine to deal with is budget and how that slope goes up further as I would rotate that back, and we'd have to dig into that hill more, and of course that creates more of a potential to hit any rock that may be below the surface.
Right.
So that's all, that's concerned. But the other thing that this does is maybe gives me more of a opportunity to have a balanced site where if it's not rock and it's, usable material, we can at least use it to fill around the outside of the foundation. I'm not importing so much soil. So that's not a bad thing. And the only other thing I wanted to add was if you see where it's drawn now, on the right-hand side, there's a 12-foot lean-to.
Here?
Yes, exactly. So I think like Marla said, she didn't draw it to scale, but she kind of did a good job of capturing the essence of the garage itself. So the only thing I wanted to add was, so that would probably extend 12 feet further to the left it would be
Right.
the west. And I just would need to make sure with NVDH, I think, that, proximity to the well's not an issue, which in talking to David Held at Provost and Rivero, he didn't believe that it would be. He said he thought we would still be far enough away. So I don't think rotating like that keeps it or puts it back into any wetlands where we have to fill any wetlands. I think, like I said, I think that corner where Mahler's drawn it in, that corner we talked about rotating it around is the closest one to the wetlands. And the grades are such back there where she's drawn in that alternate location that, you're not going to have any, well, it shouldn't have any wetlands there because it's a good, I want to say almost 10 feet higher than where that soils, the wetland soils perimeter or delineation there occurs.
So if I
So-
understand, go ahead, Marla.
I was just gonna say, if you come up with a plan that doesn't have any fill in wetlands, that you can develop it without any fill in wetlands, that this application could be converted to a wetlands agent approval. The
Right.
price wouldn't change. It's still, the $110 would be the same. It would just be changed to a wetlands agent approval and the commission wouldn't have to render decision. It would be rendered by me.
Okay.
And with an appeal period to the commission. So if you can come up with that alternative plan that has no fill in wetlands, we can make that change.
Okay.
And then I
Yeah,
can
I'm willing
issue
to-
it as soon as that comes in.
Okay, I'm willing to do that. Like I said, I talked to David today and I told him I'd get in touch with him tomorrow. And I think we just have to do that. The only other concern is, like I said, I think I'll just, out of an abundance of caution, just check with the building department. I can't imagine they would have any problem if we did encounter ledge and had to pin either I can't imagine all, but some of the foundation to any sound rock. I have some concerns about doing it and having a part of the building on rock and part on fill, but I just have to make sure we do proper compaction on the fill portion. I work in the construction industry. I know how to take care of that. So it's not a huge deal. Just make sure things get done right. That's all.
What leads you to believe that you have bedrock there?
When I originally moved in the existing lawn area, I spread about 100 yards of silt, which ended up being about a 1-inch lens, and then a 3-inch layer of topsoil over there because I think the original owners had put topsoil out and not done anything to separate it from the underlying soil, which is mostly sand. And we took the curse off a couple of knobs adjacent to the back deck going towards the property line, and we hit a knob of it there. And then I also had some irrigation put in, and the fellow that put the irrigation, well, actually, I put a system in myself first that I've since replaced by someone that knew a little better how to install a system, and plus it was 10 years ago, so some of the means and methods are a little bit improved. And we hit a couple of spots there, so there seems to be some ledge in the area. To say it's over there, I don't know. I think some of that mound might be where they may have had to remove some ledge for the foundation, and they wasted the tailings from the stone that was removed, the foundation over there, it looks like, because I know I've used some to build some stone walls and so forth. And it looks like it was either fractured or maybe even blasted out of there from the looks of the rock that came out of it, or that came out of that pile, that little ridge you see behind where that proposed location is. But, that's, it is what it is.
Mhm.
That, and I also had to put in, when I bought the house, I had to put on a radon system, not just for the air, but for the water, which isn't always prevalent, but that tends to be when you have some groundwater sitting on bedrock and running off into the aquifer. But that could be from this property, or that could be from some other nearby land that water's picking up that radon. It doesn't necessarily have to be on this property from what I've been told.
Okay,
So George, the commission doesn't need to take an action on this at this point in time, because it is only being received tonight. So if Mr. Mayo gets an alternative location that doesn't involve wetlands before the next meeting, I can bring that plan to the commission and the commission can vote to turn it into a wetlands agent approval.
right, thank you.
And I would say at this point, that is my intent.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayo. Commissioners, any
Can I ask
questions? Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
Go
when
please.
the next meeting is, just so I know when I gotta get that done by?
It's the second Tuesday in April. that
Okay,
would
so once a
be-
month.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that should be plenty of time. I'll, like I said, I'll reach out to David tomorrow and we'll
April
discuss
11th.
options. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item, we have Town of Thompson. Let me find the application and my, okay, it's DEC 23004, Town of Thompson, 15 Thatcher Road, Assessors Map 63, Block 58, Lot 24, demolish and reconstruct Thompson Schools track in Upland Review area, stamped received on 3/6/23.
so Marla Beth speaking. The site plans that are in the application were delivered to the Wetlands Office by John Rice. He wanted me to take a look at them. And in looking at them, I realized that there was work in the Upland Review area. And so if you look at page 72 of the Zoom documents, that shows the trackway. And it shows the existing drainage system. And you'll notice that there are two storm drain outfalls from the track system. They're both 12-inch RCPs. The one that is located to the north, which is internal to the track, picks up the under drainage around the track. It's the subsurface drainage. There's one catch basin on the east side of the trackway, and there's a yard drain on the west side, and that drains out into the hillside. The discharge is, I looked at it last Wednesday, that discharge is pretty stable. The second drainage system is located to the south side of the field, the trackway, and that it has a catch basin at its entrance, and it runs to the west and has an outfall that's on the side of the hill, like the other one is, and that one has a substantial amount of riprap at its outfall. And as a consequence, if you go to page 74 of the Zoom documents, you'll see what the proposed system is. Now, John informed me, and he's here, I believe, still on the Zoom meeting. They checked out the under drain system. They don't have to replace it. It is in good condition. So there isn't going to be any changes to the actual drainage system, except on the southeast corner of the trackway, they have a design for a, they called it a rain garden. It's like a stormwater management system, and its overflow will go into that catch basin
happened?
that's already existing for the southern. I think we lost your
I know,
screen
let me
share.
get back, I'll get back, I hit the wrong button. There we go,
That's okay.
sorry. Got it.
So in going out and looking at it, that I'm not sure how that rain garden is going to function, but it's well away from the wetlands. So my only concern really is during construction, since the outfalls are currently pretty stable, I would expect them to remain stable. The only concern that I would have is during construction, if sediment laden water gets into those catch basins and yard drain and drains down the hill, it will go into a ponded area. So if you go to page, I gave you all the plans. If you go to page 480 of the Zoom documents,
Yeah,
I
we're here.
made a map of the inlets for the drainage system and labeled them and where they discharged. And my concern is that the way the erosion and sediment control plan read, it was kind of, to be honest with you, I thought it was a little loosey-goosey. The description, which was on page 73, it talked about protecting, wait a minute, maybe it's not 73. Back up, it's on 71. They talked about how they were going to protect those inlets. And let's see, sediment erosion control notes. It says on item number 3 of the soil erosion and sediment control notes, it says all catch basins will be protected with silt sacks, hay bale ring, silt fence, or block and stone inlet protection throughout the construction period and until all disturbed areas are thoroughly stabilized. They show a detail of the silt sack later on in the plans. They do not show a hay bale ring. They don't believe they showed, I don't think they showed the block and stone inlet. So I wasn't really sure what their control was that they were going to use for those inlets. Those 4 inlets are the only way that sediment could enter into the storm drain system and leave the site and get into that ponded area. And that is a pond at the bottom of the hill. Now there's a nice grassy flat lawn area. Well, it's mowed, rough mow, at the toe of that slope, which would be a perfect area to establish a secondary control, which could be wattles, that would give a substantial area for settlement should they have a failure. So my recommendation is this could be approved as a non-regulated use, as recreation, but I'm concerned about the erosion and sediment controls, and I am suggesting that they add not necessarily silt fence or hay bales, and it doesn't have to be the 208 feet that I identified, but some kind of control in that lawn area or that rough cut area before it hits the open water area, in case they have a failure of the system when they're reconstructing the trackway, because that'll be a substantial amount of disturbed ground, even though it's flat. The only way that water is going to pretty much leave that site is through those 4 drains that go into the existing system.
Okay. So do we have someone representing the applicant that can speak to this subject and whether they're willing to make that change? Mr. Rice?
John Rice, 39 East Thompson Road. How about if I sit down with Marlon, she can tell me what she wants and we'll incorporate it in the plans.
It sounds like a yes to me.
Yep, it is. Because
Great.
this is a town project and this just should be easy to get through.
I hope. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Mr. Rice. Commissioners, any questions for Marla or Mr. Rice? Oh, hearing none. Sounds like we're well on our way to a new track. Marla, is any further action required by the commission on this matter?
Commission has to vote to approve it as a non-regulated use, as he's requested in the application, which is on page 67 of the Zoom documents. You can see where it says that the request is for a proposed use activity that will not disturb the natural indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse and conforms to one of the following non-regulated uses outlined in section 4.2 of the Thompson Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Regulations, and they're doing it for outdoor recreation.
Great. Do I have a motion to?
I'll make a motion that we approve this application as a use permitted as of right for recreation, provided
No,
that
it's
non-regulated.
Clarification for management of sediment and erosion are included in the plan.
Okay, so I've got a motion to approve the application as permitted as of right or non-regulated use with the caveats detailed by Marla regarding the sedimentation, ponds and drainage.
I'll second that motion.
There was a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the application is approved with the qualifications as noted during this discussion. Thank you very much, Marla and Mr. Rice, for your insight on this and cooperation. Okay, on to the next item. we find it. We've got a lot of pages here to get through. I've, any applications received after the agenda was published?
No, none.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. Permanent extensions, I have none. Pending enforcement actions, okay. Notice of permit violation, VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mark Bear, 1227 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10, grades not as authorized and modified plan approved by the Commission on February 9th, 2021. So we have a status report.
So I haven't talked to Mr. Bear this month, but I drove by last Wednesday and noticed that all of the earth moving equipment is gone. So my guess is that he's no longer using the services of Patrick Wall. And when I last spoke to him last month, he was looking for a builder and a new site excavator or someone who could do the grading work. I will be back in touch with him before next meeting to find out what the status is.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Marla on this matter? Okay, hearing none. We're moving on to the next notice violation, VIOL 22031. Douglas and Roberta Gray, 0 New Road, Assessors Map 154, Block 3, Lot 2J, watercourse alternative causing flooding, issued 11/23/22. Status.
So if you recall last month's meeting, we were supposed to be receiving a report or plan from Kevin Calabro regarding whether or not he has the ability to establish grades, whether the grades are sufficient enough to have the water run down along his driveway. And he did not get that report into me. I was out at the site on Wednesday. I had received a comment from the zoning enforcement officer that there might have been some grading work there. And in fact, there was some grading work near the rear line, which would be the southeast line of his property. And he did some work in the upland review area, but the wetlands are delineated on the abutting property. So I did provide him and his engineer with a copy of the maps that the Grays had used when they had the stone removed. Remember, they had stone removed from the land that was originally part of the River Junction State Star Road. And that showed the wetlands delineation abutting nearby his property line. So I have told Mr. Calabro that I will be issuing him a notice of violation for the work that he did up there, with a requirement that they have to submit an application by next month's meeting. Not just for that work, but any other work that they've done, including the installation of the under drain and or any work along the driveway. At this juncture, it's not clear from what I understand. Norm Tybo did not go out to the site until I believe it was Thursday of last week to shoot the grades. So that's why he didn't have any report. So I'm going to issue the notice of violation within the next week. Mr. Calabro knows that I'm doing this, and I've told him, cease any further grading work. Do not do any further grading work until we get the plan in that he's going to use. And at that point, if the grades don't match, then meaning if he cannot have, if the grades aren't sufficient enough to run it down his driveway, well, the water is running down there now, then we would have to be looking at this again. I'm hoping that he will come up with an answer to that. But if the grades aren't correct, then I think I'm going to request a sit down between the Grays, the Kennetts, and the Calabros to discuss a possible solution to this problem. I understand the Grays' concern about having water running through the middle of their lot. And I understand that they don't want to have any water going into their property. But the Kennetts also have a concern about water running into their property. And I think there has to be some kind of solution. You've asked to look for that, and that's what I'm going to see if we can come up with an answer by next meeting. And that's part of the reason why I'm issuing the notice of violation, is because we're now well past the 45-day time period that was established originally.
Well, thank you for the
And that's the
update.
status of it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Marla on this matter? I see Commissioner Obert, you have a,
Yes, I do. In fact, it's part A and part B. As notice of violation is listing Douglas and Roberta Gray at 0 New Road, but they do have a number there, don't they? And the other
Yes,
thing,
that-
the other question is, does this now mean that they are not in violation, but Mr. Calabro is, or are all three parties in violation?
the only two are in violation. My opinion is that the Grays have a violation for having blocked and altered a water course near the Calabro's property boundary line. Mr. Calabro has a violation because he's done alterations within the upland review area, at least probably at 2 locations, if not more. But actually 2 locations. I don't know about the under drain because I'm not positive exactly where that is, but I'm told it exists and I need to see it on a plan. And Northeast District Department of Health doesn't have proof of where it is. There can only be one place it can be, and that has to be in the upland review area. So now that I have 2 areas that have been altered without approval, and possibly a 3rd area that's going to have to be modified if he can get the grades to go down his driveway. I suspect that the Kennetts would probably prefer the water to run towards the rear of their property than along the side of their property between Mr. Calabro's driveway and their lawn. And that's where it's going now. But that's, until we see what the engineer comes up with, we won't know. So there would be 2 violations. And the question is what happens with those grades? That'll determine whether or not we can abandon the notice of violation to the Grays, or whether we have to pursue that further.
all right, thank you. So any other comments on this matter?
Hi, I'd like to be recognized. This is Roberta Gray.
Okay, to see your name, I've got your name and your address. Your chair recognizes Roberta Gray.
Yep, 131 New Road. So couple of points, and we've discussed this before, so it's just for the record to say that we are very strongly upset about the fact that we were given a violation notice because it was deemed that water that was running across our newly acquired land, we were told when Marla came out, we were told and given permission that it was not a water course, and then that changed. So I don't know how we can be in violation by filling in and grading our property, except for the fact that that decision was changed on us after the fact. And as far as the future, proposal for a solution, I am really at a loss to understand why the abutting neighbors need to take any burden of responsibility for the artesian well water, which is the water that's actually causing the problem. And it's just not adding up to me that the town can't see that this is Mr. Calabro's responsibility. And although, of course, he couldn't have known that he was going to dig an artesian well, that is exactly what did happen. So that solution needs to be put back in that person's lap. And I agree that, it's not just us, it's the other neighbors that are having concerns about this water. But as far as, again, just for the record, that when Doug and I filled in that area, we did that with permission that we could do that. And that was not deemed a water course. And and again, just for the record, it was nowhere on any map that it's a water course and that we are not in violation. And that we would like that removed.
Ms. Gray, thank you for your comments. Any other comments, commissioners? All right. No further comments, I guess, on this item. We'll move on. The other business. Update on proposed revisions to subdivision regulations.
So I've talked to Tira yesterday, and they are having a special subcommittee meeting on March 22nd, which is, I believe, a Wednesday. And the agenda will be posted for that special meeting. They will be discussing the areas of significant concern that need to be addressed. Tira has a list of areas that I raised that she feels that the commission has to render decisions on, and I would suggest that anybody who's interested in finding out about those, that they attend or at least zoom into that meeting. She has distributed to the subcommittee members as well as to town staff copies of the document that she's going to be going over with the commission on next Wednesday. And if the Inland Wetlands Commission members would like a copy of that document, just let me know and I will forward that to you.
I certainly would. So if you would forward one to me, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, same. It's Diane.
And looks like Commissioner Burt as well. Fran,
I would like one too, please.
okay, please, if you would.
All right,
distribute
then
those.
I'll just forward it to you all.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we're done on that.
May
point.
I, this
Oh,
is
sorry.
Deb Kennett. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't find the raise hand signal
What,
to make a
sorry,
one more comment. I apologize.
For what,
May I
um,
make
for
one
what
comment?
regarding what, Ms. Kennett?
I'm sorry, the last item on the agenda, the water issue.
That would be the
Could
Gray's
maybe-
violation.
Right, perhaps
Yes.
we should have that at the citizens' comments.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have
Thank
it,
you.
we will be there in a few minutes if you would, please, because we're
Thank
far
you.
gone past that. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item. Other business, budget 23 to 24 budget. Comments?
So I'm advised by the finance office that the Board of Finance has budget workshop meetings every, I believe it's every Wednesday, whatever the 16th is. But their schedule is posted for this month and next month. Their meetings for going over the budget are posted on their March 16th posted agenda. So if you look at the posted agenda for the Board of Finance for March 16th, you'll see the entire schedule for the budget workshop meetings. That's the best I can give you. As far as I know, at this point in time, there's been no decisions made regarding the wetlands budget. I think they're just in the process of starting to review it now.
Right. So somebody's got the mic, I guess, on in background. All right, moving
It
on
was-
to the next item. Next item. Other business review bylaws.
So attached, you will find a red line version. The way the regulation, the bylaws read is that you have to review them a month before you vote on them. So what I went through them and came up with what I thought should be appropriate changes. And I put them in red line. And so you'll notice that there's a bunch of punctuation changes. I believe I forwarded this to you, all of the wetlands commissioners, before this meeting. And so I'm just suggesting that in Article 6, that staff and their duties, that under B, you add language for issuing notices of violation. Right now, it only has issuing enforcement orders, and notices of violation are not orders. And then suggested adding under item 3 of that same article, that any determination or approval made by the duly authorized agent is subject to, and I suggested appeal and or approval by commission, because anybody can appeal my decision to you. So just as clarification. And then under Article 8 meetings, I added language for including Zoom meetings. So that you don't have to be required to hold them in person, that you can hold them virtually or in a hybrid format. And then the rest were just simple typo, grammatical, adding a paragraph, adding a comma where there was a semicolon, that kind of thing. So I thought that it would be best that if you reviewed them now, and so that if you find any changes you want now, at the next meeting would be when you go and elect your officers, would also be when you'd finalize your edits to the bylaws. And these are my suggestions to you.
Thank you. Commissioners, I guess we will review and comment on the next meeting if there, unless there's questions now.
My only
Commissioner Obert.
observation, excuse me, Charlie Obert here. I read these when Marla sent them, and I believe I sent back a comment. My only observation was item 3 in Article 6. To me, it seemed like a clumsy phrase. It says, subject to appeal and or approval. Maybe I don't know. There's just something about there that doesn't. It offends my sensibilities as a amateur writer.
Oh. So the use of the slash, is that what you're referring to? I guess. Thank you, Commissioner Obert. All right, then, I guess hearing no other comments, we'll move on. Here we go. Okay, other business. IGBC regulation revisions.
So we didn't get to meet last couple of weeks ago, and I'm wondering if you had any, wanted to do this because I need to talk to you about a couple of issues that, depending on how you decide which way you're going to want to go, will determine how I draft the edits, the remaining edits. So I could send to you a summary of the areas that I need your input on, so you could think about them before we have that meeting. But I still would like to have a special meeting in person to discuss substantive changes to the regulations. One of the areas already is conceptual subdivision approvals. The other area is the fee schedule. And also a section regarding declaratory rulings by the wetlands agent for work in the upland review area. So those are the 3 areas that I would like to sit down and talk with you personally on and get your direction.
Okay, well, I might suggest we have a date, set a date, and conduct that if possible, if everyone is available and the weather's permitting and we're otherwise able to, given health and other constraints.
Do you
What
have,
date would
Commissioner Obert?
I was just wondering if anybody has a preferred date.
I'm looking in April, actually. Your next meeting is April 11th. So I don't know when, George, you said Wednesdays are not good for you. And I
Right.
was wondering whether or not like April 6th, which is a Thursday,
That could work.
whether or not
It's fine with me, Marla.
that would be,
In the evening or like early evening or?
yeah, in the evening. Would you prefer 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening? And it would be most likely in the conference room on the 2nd floor.
Yeah, for me, it'd be better earlier, like 6 would be best. That way we can get it done and move on.
I think 6 works.
Okay.
Works for me.
Great.
Yes,
Thursday, the 6th.
at 6.
April
At 6.
6th at 6
Make sure-
o'clock.
Right.
Okay.
Let's target that date and,
I'll
Great.
schedule it in.
Okay. Moving on to the next item. All right, citizens' comments on agenda items. I believe there was, Ms. Kennett had a comment on an item that was scheduled.
Yes, thank you so much. Deb Kennett and Alex Kennett here. And I just want to go on record as saying that, we appreciate that this whole item that we're discussing about the water is a process. In the meantime, the water that's flowing down continually is draining into our back area. and causing some significant, I'll call it flooding, ponding, whatever, in our backyard, and want to know, do we have to keep waiting for someone to come out and help continue to keep that water contained, or how does that work?
Right, this is a citizens comment section, so this isn't a Q&A, so.
Well,
So-
wait a minute, George, excuse me, George, this is one of the three parties that are up there on New Road.
I get it. I do. Maybe the questions of that nature might be best directed to our inland wetlands agent.
Okay.
During the business hours. Would that
So-
work for you, Marla?
Yeah, so I'll be in the office tomorrow. Would you be available to talk on the phone, Deb?
Yes, what time works is good for you?
Try 11 o'clock, because I don't know if I'm gonna have to, I don't think I'm gonna have to do any snow shoveling, it looks like.
Okay, I will call you at 11. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms.
All
Kay.
right.
Just that would be best perhaps for better dialogue. All right. Any other citizens' comments for any items on the agenda?
George, if I may, it's not an agenda item, but the Board of Finance meets on Thursday at 7 o'clock the next 5 weeks. John
Okay.
Rice.
So I think we could probably squeeze this upstairs, Marla. Do you think upstairs in the other conference room?
Yeah,
Great. Thank you for that point, Mr. Rice. So many meetings. I
I
guess
will-
like
I will
20
find-
meetings a month up there.
I will find a room for us, even if it happens to be in the wetlands office. There's a table there and there's enough space. And if the public decides to come, they're just gonna have to stand.
We'll make accommodation somehow. We'll make it work. All right. Okay, thank you. If hearing no other comments, we'll move on. And we have reports, budget and expenditures.
Okay, the budget for July, it's Commissioner Chapin, the budget for July 1st through 2/22/23, so February 22nd. We have an available budget of $10,859.77, and we have expended 60.4% of our budget.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Diane? All right, moving on to the next item, wetlands agent report.
Okay, so on February 21st, I submitted my completed comments on the draft proposed subdivision regulations. And as a result, that's what Tira was putting into her copy that I will be forwarding to you. I believe I have shared those my comments that I sent to Tira directly to George, but not to the other commission members. If you decide you want to see those, you'll have to ask me for them. I've made no progress on in this past month on the pre-1990 file destruction due to my commitment to completing the subdivision regulations review. And now I'm going to start focusing on the inland wetlands regulations. On follow-up and inspections, I've got a new complaint, 23-02. I got a report of tree cutting and earth moving along the former railroad bed southwest of Laporte Road. That's runs more or less parallel to Linehouse Road. And on March 8th, Dan Malo and I walked from Laporte Road southwest along the former railroad bed and observed that some trees had been felled along the portion of the railroad bed near 295 Linehouse Road, and that some excavation of soils had occurred on the 295 Linehouse Road property within 100 feet of a pond and possibly in delineated wetlands. Now, this property, the 295 Linehouse Road property, was the subject of past complaint 20-14 involving the dredging of that pond by the LeBlancs with side casting of spoils in or near wetlands. This was a site that Charlie Aubert and I went and looked at when we had the drought a couple of years ago. That complaint was closed following a letter that I sent to the property owners, Philip and Deborah LeBlanc, advising them to do no more earth moving work or construction work, either in the pond or within 100 feet of the pond without first obtaining approval from the commission. And while no action is required for the cutting of the trees that I saw, after I complete the review of all information in the Wetlands Office files, I do expect to be issuing a notice of violation to Mr. and Mrs. LeBlanc. And I will ask them to cease any further earth moving work and attend the next Inland Wetlands Commission meeting to explain their actions and the reason why no approval was obtained prior to conducting this recent earth moving work. And I have some photographs of that. Their property is close to the headwaters of Shumai Brook, Shumai Brook. And it drains into, I believe, the Carol Mead's property. And a lot of times Carol Mead has a couple of very large ponds, and she has concerns about pollutants getting there. I saw no evidence of sediment leaving the 295 Linehouse Road, but I don't know what they're doing. During this past month, I've reviewed 8 building permits, and under miscellaneous on March 9th, that was Thursday, this past Thursday, I attended the Connecticut Association of Wetland Scientists Conference and got information regarding the reorganization of the Army Corps of Engineers for the New England District, as well as a report that the Environment Committee of the Legislature is considering some changes to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Act involving the requirements for DEEP to update its training program, and by regulation require inland wetlands agencies file a report on who has been certified. The status and the language of the bill can be found by search for the committee bill number 5616 on the Connecticut General Assembly's webpage, https://www.cga.ct.gov. And then with respect to requisitions and purchases, I paid $60 for a new Wetlands Office multi-year receipt stamp, date stamp. And then I paid out some money for Mr. Marrier's legal notice. And then the conference that I went to was $80, and the town has reimbursed me for that. And I'm going to ask for mileage for that too. So that'll be coming out of the budget also. And that's it.
I do have a question on that, if I may, regarding the certification. Is that the course that's available for wetlands commissioners to become certified, or is that a separate course?
No, that's the certification course. That's the one you get your certificate for.
Okay.
Right now, it's currently totally online. It's handled by University of Connecticut.
Right.
What I found out is Darcy Winther, who was the only person at DEP who handled the training program for inland wetlands commissions.
Right.
She has taken another position, and they don't have anybody now to do the job that she did. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They're trying to hire some new people, but my question to one of the assistant directors during this meeting who was explaining the changes in DEP, I said, well, if you're hiring people, do they have experience in wetlands regulation, either at the municipal level or what kind of education do they have? And he couldn't give me an answer. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I see. So in our commission, we have more than one commissioner that has this credential.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
commission, I saw Commissioner Obert.
Yeah, a couple of
Yep.
thoughts. Number one, you gave a number of the bill that's in.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions that we should be reviewing it and contacting people, or just to be aware of it? And what was the number again?
Well,
56?
It's 5616. Committee
Okay.
bill, Environment Committee Bill 5616. That would be a House bill. It's not, I don't know what the Senate number is, but that's the House number. And a lot of bills end up going into committee and never come out of committee.
Yes.
And I don't know whether or not this is going to go to public hearing, because they all bills, in order to come out of committee, I believe have to go to public hearing. And I didn't even have time to check to see if they have set it up for a hearing, but it currently is in the Environment Committee. And it's 5616.
Great.
And how often do we need to recertify? Because I did
You
that.
don't.
Okay.
You don't. Just keep your certificate. I should have probably a copy of the certificate on file with your appointment papers. I keep the appointment papers for everyone. And Charlie, I think you had to come in to get reappointed.
Actually, I
This
didn't,
month?
so I guess I'm not legal tonight.
Well, I don't know why they require you to get resworn in. I know I don't have to do it for the town of Woodstock every time I'm reappointed. I only did it the first time. But
Yeah, the ordinance, if you look at the
this-
ordinances, I think you'll find that some have it, some don't, and
okay.
it's perhaps a good question for our ex officio member to address. But maybe Amy can answer that, but I know I did, but
Well, luckily,
I'm
even
sorry,
if Charlie.
Sorry,
isn't-
George, I don't know the ordinance off the top of my head.
oh, yeah. Well, it's
So-
something about who has to be sworn in, you know, it's like, okay, we come
Right.
to it, some don't. It's just, I know that you probably get more involved with it than perhaps we do on a day-to-day basis. All right, thank you.
I can ask Renee Waldron, the town
Yeah.
clerk. She should know.
Sure, okay. All right, so we have budget wetlands agent report, and now we have the correspondence. We have none, I guess, so none
None.
new. Any Mylars?
Mhm.
No.
No,
Commissioner comments? Any comments by commissioners?
I have a thought that keeps coming back to me about the problems that we have up there on New Road. And I don't know. I've been expressing it all along, but I don't know the answer. It does seem to me, though, the residents up there have a problem that is bigger than what this town has been in a position to solve. It's a problem that relates in part to inadequate controls over what happens when an operation gets done graveling. And hopefully we'll get it addressed in our updated subcommittee or subdivision regulations. I know that I had asked for stronger measures on those things. We're stuck. I mean, we got people like Mrs. Gray and the other woman that were on.
Mrs. Kennett.
We're stuck. We can't help them the way that I would like to.
I think is Commissioner Moreno. I'm sorry, go ahead. Who wants to speak next?
go ahead, Fran.
Fran?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just clearing my throat.
Oh,
Oh, Charlie, I would like to respond to, I do think there is a course of action that can be taken. It's not one that is not fraught without commitment of resources. I take umbrage with the claim that they were authorized, that they were told that there was no water course. They may have been told there wasn't a wetland, but they were never told that there wasn't a water course. And I will take issue with that. I do think there's a resolution. I'm hoping that it can come to a resolution that the commission finds acceptable, that doesn't involve litigation. But I do think that's part of the job of the Wetlands Commission is to, granted, the commission can't always find all the answers for everybody. But here's a case where I do believe the Grays violated the regulations. I did not tell them there was no water course. And I don't know where where Mrs. Gray is getting that from, but I don't have any recollection of telling her that. And I certainly didn't put it in writing. Now, I may have told them that there weren't any wetlands because the likelihood of there being wetlands, they take years to create wetland soils. And they may have misunderstood the difference between wetlands and watercourses because they are not always mutually exclusive. But sometimes they are. So right now, Mr. Calabro needs to see if he has the solution that he can provide. If he can't, then there is an alternative which the commission has to decide whether they want to pursue it. I could issue an order ordering the Grays to remove the material that they placed in the watercourse channel, that would result in a hearing, a show cause hearing, where they would get to place their evidence down and I would place my evidence down, and you as the commissioners would have to decide whether the order would stand or that the order would be rescinded or that the order would be modified. And so then it would fall upon the commission to decide whether or not the Gray's claim was valid or whether my claim was valid, and you become the judge of that. So that is one of the solutions. I'm trying to find a solution that doesn't go that route, that handles it through Mr. Calabro's property, if that's at all possible. We won't know that until Mr. Tybo, his engineer, comes up with the grades and a plan.
I know that if I was a lawyer representing anybody on this, I would want to see a document that said it was okay to do this. If I don't have it, I can't show it to the jury. So I don't have evidence. I agree with what Marla said just a moment ago. Even when something is said, it can be misunderstood.
Yeah.
And when something is written, it's harder to misunderstand it, but it's possible.
Right.
Still, the evidence needs to be there, and there is none for this. That I see. There's no evidence that provides a quick solution that most people, either everybody has to be happy or everybody has to be equally unhappy with the solution in order for it to be fair. I don't know what to do.
Thank you,
This is-
Commissioner Obert. And
This is Roberta Gray. Am I allowed to comment?
no, I'm sorry. This is for commissioners only at this point. The citizens' comments and the as passed opportunity. So next commissioner, or you could certainly contact Marla directly. Commissioner Morano, any comments?
No,
None. And Commissioner Chapin?
No, thank
No.
you.
All right. So I would say I just have a few basic comments. Some of these issues certainly are reasonable. People can disagree, in other words, and others we can all misinterpret, especially in technical matters. I know that in an earlier meeting, commission, we discussed the definitions of what constitutes wetlands and water courses and the differences, and certainly that's something that can be an issue. But I think we're doing as much as we can with the limit within our limits to go move forward. And if we can't come to a reasonable solution by the next meeting, I find it hard, difficult to understand how it takes so long for the grades to be shot, but perhaps I'm not an engineer and that's why it takes longer. But otherwise, I want to thank all the commissioners for their hard work on this matter, especially those that attended, had the opportunity to attend the site walk recently, which helped inform the commission. And with that, I have nothing else. I'll entertain a commission for no motion for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, unmute.
Commissioner Chapin, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned at 8:38 p.m. on March 14th, 2022. Thank you very much.